Hey folks, Billboard Truck Guy here, and back with a special episode of BBCG and Friends. My first returning guest, Melissa Gorman. Melissa, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for joining me. I know we've been chatting about this topic for a few months now, and excited to finally talk to you officially about it. So, what we're going to focus on today is the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, which is coming up. The Live Aid shows in London and Philadelphia occurred on July 13th, 1985. A full-headed Billboard chart guy, 20 years old, enjoyed that day very much. I know you're younger than that, but I know you enjoyed it as well.
Yes, a 16-year-old me was just living for that day. That was how my friends and I just spent Saturday. We went back and forth between a couple of friends' houses, and that's how we spent the weekend, was into Live Aid.
That's Yeah, and I was supposedly working, but I was in and out watching the TV in the restaurant I was in. Um, so Live Aid, for those unaware or maybe have forgotten, uh, was kind of put together by Bob Geldof, um, based on the need for famine relief in Ethiopia. Bob uh, and a ton of British and international artists in December of 1984 put together the single "Do They Know It's Christmas After All," which is a huge hit. Subsequently, U.S. and some Canadian artists uh, in I think the spring of '85 put together "We Are the World," written by Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson. And those two songs, and I know there were others out there, but those two songs kind of led to this dual concert on July 13th. It was dubbed the Global Jukebox. Obviously, the shows in London started first, and then at Wembley Stadium, and then JFK Stadium in Philadelphia is where the U.S. show took place. So, Melissa, kind of big picture, what do you remember about that day? Is there anything specific that kind of stands out to you as you think back all these years?
Well, I think we'll probably chat a little bit about kind of the discordance between um, the performances between London and Philadelphia. But U2 was just a showstopper. I was a early U2 fan. I had a friend whose older brother was really into U2 from the beginning, and so just that performance was amazing. And Queen, um, and I felt like even back then, I felt like we weren't doing it as well in Philadelphia as they were in London in terms of just the content of the talent and the technical issues. But it was just a really cool thing to be able to sit in someone's living room and watch this concert that's going on in England, and then they started up in Philadelphia. It was just pretty cool technologically.
Yeah, it was amazing at the time, right? And just thinking about it. So a couple of things as I prep for this conversation, and I'm sure you have as well. A couple of things that kind of caught my eye. First thing was the staging. The stage in London was a little darker. There wasn't. It just looked better on the
Yeah,
screen, if you
yeah, it
know
was
what
a
I
very
mean.
cool looking stage with the Live Aid logo with the guitar, and it was a 360 revolving thing, so they could swap out the sets and whatnot. And the stage at Philadelphia just looked like just some random concert festival stage. There's nothing really special about it at all.
Yeah, and to be fair, that day in Philadelphia was like, a million degrees. It was
It
one
was
of those
hot.
brutal, hot, hazy, humid summer days. I had a couple of college friends who went and they just said it was brutal. So that leads me to number two, the difference in the crowds. And seeing, watching Bruce videos or seeing DVDs of Bruce playing over there and other artists. I can think of INXS and Queen, obviously. The crowds over there just were amazing that day and so engaged. And it didn't feel that way with the US crowd. Would you kind of
Yeah,
agree with.
100%. Like a lot of people in the crowd were kind of doing their own thing, and a lot of people were in tune to the concert that was actually happening there. But I think a lot of people were just there to say they were at Live Aid and not really as into it as the people in London were.
Yeah. Um, so kind of with that being said, and it's kind of universally kind of agreed upon that the London performances as a whole turned out to be better than the American performances. I started going down a path, and I'm sure you did in looking at your research in researching this, but there were 7 or 8 huge American artists who, for whatever reason, did not appear at Live Aid. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna,
I was hoping we would get a chat about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, Bruce wasn't there. The E Street Band had just finished a leg of the Born in the USA tour a week earlier. They were in London. They were in Leeds, England. So in my mind, a week later, could they have done something? Could Bruce have come out and given us 3 acoustic songs? I don't. But that was definitely a hole in the lineup. Other folks, Billy Joel wasn't there. He was
Yep.
huge in '84 with An Innocent Man. But he wasn't touring in '85. But again, would it have killed him to get on stage and play Piano Man?
Right.
Just come out there. Van Halen was missing, and that was the summer of the whole Van,
David Lee Roth
David Lee
breakup.
Roth leaving, Sammy Hagar kind of coming in, and ironically, 2 months later at the first Farm Aid, that was the first performance of Van Hagar, where I think they played cover songs basically, but timing factored in with Van Halen not being there. Michael Jackson and Prince were not there.
Nope.
Two huge figures in the middle of the '80s. Then I have a couple of others that maybe are a stretch, but I thought I John Fogerty wasn't there, and
Yep.
he had released Center Field earlier that year, which was a hit. But at that point, he wasn't performing Creedence songs due to lawsuits. So I wonder if they were like, "Well, we don't need to hear, 3 new songs from John Fogerty. We want to hear, Proud Mary and Traveling Band. And if we're not going to hear that, we're not going to invite you." Um,
Yeah, and
two
in an
others,
interesting, ironic note, the status quo opened the London show, and they opened it with "Rockin' All Over the World."
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And then 2 others I kind of thought of, Bob Seger. He
Yep.
and I went when I looked that up, um, he toured in '83, but he didn't tour again until '86. So I don't know what was going on, but he was still pretty popular at that point. And then Stevie Wonder, and I just learned this. I don't know if your research uncovered this, but Stevie Wonder tried to organize a boycott,
Oh,
um, w-
really?
of Live Aid due to the lack of African American musicians. He was trying to get Michael Jackson to join in and kind of stand up and be recognized around this. I found this out looking this up, and this is the first I had heard of that.
Interesting. I had not heard that either.
Yeah,
I know that Michael Jackson was working on Bad, and then he was also involved in some movie project, which I had never heard of, called Captain EO. But you're right. It's odd that, he was so instrumental in the We Are the World song and album that he just was a no-show there.
right. And to be fair, Prince, I guess what I read, Prince was concerned about security and safety, but he did contribute a video that was
Yes.
played at
Yep.
some point during the performance. So if you think about all those potential artists, and I'm sure I've missed a couple, but that they weren't, they did not perform that day. That could have changed the whole vibe
I
of
agree.
uh, of the show, and especially someone like Bruce, and he has a huge following in Philly, and Billy Joel's from Long Island, so that would have,
Yep.
again, that definitely would has impacted it. Um, I wanted to kind of narrow in on the ends of the shows if I could, and please jump in.
Sure.
Um, so I went and looked up the lineup configuration in London, and then in Philly. And what I'm focused on are the last 7 artists who
Okay.
performed at each place. So the last 7 artists in London were U2, Dire Straits, Queen, David Bowie, The Who, Elton John, and Paul McCartney.
Yep.
Not a bad run,
No, that's a murderer's row right there.
right? Um, the last 7 in Philly were the first time performing Led Zeppelin with Phil Collins on the drums, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Duran Duran, Patti LaBelle, which is still a mystery to me, Hall and Oates, Mick Jagger with Tina Turner, and then Bob Dylan closed with Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood. They played it behind Dylan. So
Yeah, and that Dylan, we can go through everybody, but this is probably a good point to just point out that Bob Dylan made that infamous comment about how some of the money raised should go to help farmers pay their mortgages, which eventually leads to Farm Aid a couple months later.
exactly, and I know Geldof was not happy with
No.
that. No, he kind of said he missed the point of the day. But about the U.S. lineup, so why? No, I understand Patti LaBelle's place in music, and she was also from Philadelphia.
I was
So
going
I
to
get,
say, I'm guessing the Philly tie-in must have played a factor there.
yeah, but have you had a chance to look at her set list from that day?
Yeah, like it's strange, right? She does New Attitude, which is probably contemporaneous with the Beverly Hills Cop movie, right? And then
Yes,
she does Imagine and Forever Young, like, and then ends with Over the Rainbow. And
yes, and folks, we're talking about the Wizard of Oz
yeah,
over the rainbow. It was bizarre at best. Um, why she got 5 songs, I'm not really sure. In prime time, I mean, that spot could have gone to Madonna,
yep,
who performed, a couple hours earlier. That spot could have gone to Tina Turner. So Private Dancer, I believe, was out at that point,
it
and
was, it was.
her comeback was on the way. I mean, in terms of rock credibility, I would say Tina Turner would have made a lot more sense than Patti LaBelle that day in that spot. Instead, she joined up with Mick Jagger, who did not play with the other Stones because they were feuding at that time. And Mick had just released a solo album.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
had read that Mick actually was the one who invited Tina Turner there. She wasn't like officially invited by Bob Geldof or any of the other sponsors of Live Aid. He wanted her there, and so she ended up like canceling some gigs and paying her own way to get there.
and she sang "State of Shock," and "It's Only Rock and Roll" with him.
Yep.
Um, the State of Shock with Michael Jackson, which I had forgotten about that song. But my overriding point is it's a benefit. It's a one-time event. Like Mick and Keith and Ronnie Wood couldn't get it together for a day to play 3 songs. I mean, they followed each other in the performance listing. Jagger came out with Tina Turner, and then Dylan played with Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood. It frustrates me beyond belief that those guys couldn't pull it together to play 2 or 3 songs as the Stones.
Yeah.
Very
And,
weird.
but that was a time when like everyone was fighting, and I feel like some of the issues that bands had at the time impacted their performances. So like all of the members of Led Zeppelin were fighting, and they weren't really happy Phil Collins was there to be their drummer, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash were all David Crosby was still kind of a mess with his drug addiction, and so their
Yeah.
performance wasn't that great. So it's kind of a like double-edged sword. If they had gotten their shit together to play together, would it have been a good performance? Who knows?
Right. And I had that note, Melissa, that Neil Young did a set and
Yep.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash did a set. So
Right.
did we need CSNY to sing 2 songs in the middle of prime time when that could have been given to, you know, a Tom Petty or even move Eric Clapton up or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little too much of that.
Yeah, even the Cars, who were pretty big at that moment after Heartbeat
Oh,
City came out, could have been more into prime time than they were.
absolutely. Yeah, the Cars were there, the Pretenders were there. And
Yeah.
you if you look at the US set lists, like Santana played 5 songs in the Now, I understand his place in musical history and the importance most prominently from the original Woodstock concert. But in 1985, did we need 5 songs from Santana?
No,
I'm
no,
not
not
sure
at
we
all.
did, you know?
No, and I wonder if that's something like Bill Graham had in mind, like, we need to have some type of homage to kind of the original big festival concert from '69 or something, but there were some weird choices there.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to the artists that are missing, because if you look at the day, like Brian Adams, who we both like, I know we've talked about him, he got 4 songs that day. Now, okay, but I don't know if Bruce and Billy Van Halen and Billy Joel were there, I don't know if Brian Adams would have gotten 4 songs.
Yeah, I would say probably not.
Yeah, the Pretenders, who I love, got 5 songs. Probably not. Again, everything would have been condensed a little more. So I went ahead and in my imagination, I reconfigured the last 7 acts in
Oh, let's
Philadelphia.
go.
All right, you ready?
I am.
Okay. I'm going to go with Duran Duran because they were big at the time.
Yep. And that was actually their last appearance for 18 years, which is crazy.
Is that true?
As like the original Duran Duran lineup, yeah.
Because I know they broke up and they split off into different
Power
bands, Power
Station.
Station and Arcadia. But I could maybe they didn't perform in 18 years because they were they did albums in the early 90s as Duran Duran.
Yeah, Ordinary World was on one of them.
Yes.
But I think it was the live performance.
Got it. Okay. So I'm gonna go Duran Duran. I'm gonna go Hall & Oates. Then I'm gonna do in the Patti LaBelle slot. I'm replacing her with either Madonna or Tina Turner. So I'll let you call that. Then we'll go Zeppelin. Then we'll put Clapton, because Clapton played a lot earlier than I would have anticipated he played. Then in my dream scenario, the Stones would have gotten together and played a couple of songs, and then Keith and Ronnie could have backed up Dylan to close the show. To me, that's a better scenario.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, for sure. And famously, the Led Zeppelin performance, as you know, it was so criticized and uneven that they refused to allow the performance to be on whether it was an album or a DVD.
Yep. Yeah. It wasn't great. I remember being disappointed at the time because there was so much hype about it because, they hadn't performed live in so long, and it was really kind of a letdown.
Yeah. What was your take on Phil Collins's day?
Well, the note heard round the world when he was playing Against All Odds. I learned that he had his fingers were slippery on the piano because it was so hot there.
Okay.
But to perform on 2 continents in the same day is pretty impressive. And he kind of redeemed himself once he got back to Philadelphia and played Against All Odds again without kind of the same note going off. But he was all over the place. He was like in a bunch of different acts, and I thought he was decent.
Yeah, I mean, I know he played with Sting in London. He may have, correct me if I'm wrong, he may have been with Dire Straits. I don't know. He wasn't. He was with Sting in London, and then he came and played. He played with Zeppelin. He played with Clapton. He played those 2 songs again on the piano, which bothers me to no end that he flew from London to Philly and played the same 2 songs.
I wonder if he felt that he had to redeem himself after screwing it up the first time.
I don't know, but it bothered me. It still does. I don't know. And I understand that it was Phil Collins' decade, and we were all kind of just
Along
living
for
in
the
it.
Phil Collins ride, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. A lot of maybe a little too much Phil Collins for my liking for that day. Who who was an artist now either in London or Philly that surprised you? Again, putting aside, I know you're a U2 fan, and you mentioned Queen's performance. Was there another performance that kind of stood out for you as you look back or remember?
Yeah, I love the Elton John performance because he was great, and like all those songs that he played were basically his '70s songs, with the exception of "I'm Still Standing." So
Right,
it was greatest hits, Benny and the Jets, Rocket Man, Don't Go Breaking My Heart with Kiki D out there, and then he brings out Wham for "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," and he sings it with George Michael, and Andrew Ridgeley just kind of fades into the background in the as a backup singer, and
right.
I realized today when I was kind of like boning up on the facts for this podcast. George Michael at the time was 22 years old, which is amazing to like have that as like your intro to stadium performances, and it really just kind of kicked off his successful solo career. So that was like one of my favorite performances of the day.
And didn't he covered "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me"? Didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did.
What I don't was it for a live album? I don't even remember the specifics of it, but I
I
think it
think
was a
he did
big
it
hit.
for like the Princess Diana tribute concert, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, George Michael is great. He was great. Wham was of its time for sure, but it was nice because that was a little bit of "I'm Still Standing" was kind of a comeback for Elton John.
Yep.
He had had a couple of down albums and a rough stretch, so it was good to see him get that praise. What about in Philly? Was there anybody who stood out for you?
Um, Again, like I think it just goes to another demonstration that the London show was just so much better than Philly. I really liked Hall and Oaks with Eddie Kendrick and David Ruffin.
Hmm.
That was a really good performance. I wanted to like the Madonna performance more. I think I was a little surprised by the songs that she chose because there was really nothing from Like a Virgin that she played.
Right.
And so I was a little disappointed about that. But going back, it's still a pretty decent performance. But that was one of the ones I was really looking forward to.
The
Um,
the thing about Madonna, Melissa, is the no lip syncing, right? Because she had that heavy jacket on, it looked like,
yep.
and her and two dancers were kind of doing the whole routine, and clearly no lip syncing at all. And I just listened to that again this afternoon for the first time in I don't know how long, and I thought it was pretty good. I definitely did. I also enjoyed in Philly. Not a surprise because they're tremendous. I thought Tom Petty was great that day.
Yeah. That was going to be my next choice. I thought
Oh,
that was a really solid performance too. And um, American Girl is my favorite Petty song. So the fact that he played that day was just great.
yeah, yeah, that's on my 3 minutes or less playlist. Also, FYI.
Good to know.
Yeah, FYI. What what um what else can you tell me about Live Aid, informationally or just remembering? You have other facts or stuff you'd like to share?
Well, I went back because, with the passing of Brian Wilson, I was curious to see how the Beach Boys performance that day was because that was his first appearance in a really long time. And
Oh,
I'm not 100% certain, but I think that was the time frame when he was kind of under the quote unquote spell or whatever was going on with his psychiatrist. And
Dr. Landy, yeah.
yeah, he does look kind of out of it in the performance. So, but they had it was a really nostalgic set. They did California Girls, Wouldn't It Be Nice? And they sounded pretty solid. Um, I was like all into Brian Adams. That was what kicked off kind of the broadcast of Philly because they didn't broadcast any of the early acts that day. They kicked it off with Brian Adams, like who I think started at like just after noon. But
Yeah.
Brian Adams was huge in in 95. Sorry, 85.
85, yeah. And you know what? You just reminded me of something that, they kicked off the telecast with Brian Adams. In at 9:55 in the morning in Philadelphia, the reun and it's not my kind of music. I don't know if it's your kind of music. The reunified Black Sabbath played for the
I
first
did
time.
I did see that. That they weren't my thing. I was more into Ozzy a little bit when he
Right.
first was a solo artist.
Yep.
Um, but
But
yeah, I was
you
not
would
a
have
fan of Black Sabbath at the time.
but you would have thought they might have found a spot, a little later in the day for these three songs. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little tough to hear Iron Man at 9:55 in the morning.
And also of note in that morning period was Run DMC, which were the
Yep.
only hip hop artists there that day, and they did two songs. Um, but so many, and I hate to be a snob because there's good tunes everywhere, but whether it's Rick Springfield or REO Speedwagon or George Thorogood, I again, I just look at this list of people who didn't show up, and everybody would have been pushed back, or pushed up
Yep.
earlier to have some of these bands perform, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was super interesting, and I had forgotten about it until I went back, the choice of introductions for different bands. So they had Jack Nicholson and Chevy Chase and Joe Piscopo do all these introductions, which is just shows you like how huge they were at the time. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't get anybody bigger than Jack Nicholson in the 80s. He had his sunglasses on. I'm sure he was rocking and rolling backstage with all the celebrities.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at that list. Don Johnson introduced Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and the Power Station. Um,
Hot off
D,
Miami Vice.
that's right. He flew right up from Miami. Um, Interestingly, Phil Collins introduced Led Zeppelin, and he must have
He's
ran around again. He was like
what
the
did not
MC.
he did
Yeah,
not fill every role, but just about every role that
I
day.
think he was seen folding up the chairs in the audience after everything ended. Joe Piscopo, Marilyn McCoo introduced the Beach Boys. George Siegel introduced George Thorogood.
That's an odd choice too.
Bette Midler introduced Madonna, the Thompson Twins, Patti LaBelle, Mick Jagger, and the Cars. Yeah, so there was quite a group of celebrity who introduced folks. Um, yeah,
Should we talk about Queen? I mean, we have to talk about Queen, right?
we well, yeah, let's definitely talk about Queen because in and so let's think about where we each were with Queen at that point. I mean, they were kind of at a crossroads with their career. I mean, they had hit a couple of hits in the early '80s, but fast forward to '85, it had been a few years. I had never seen a performance like this in my life. It was incredible and obviously inspired the movie Bohemian Rhapsody. But my God, it was amazing.
Yeah, I was a Queen fan at that age. I knew like the older 70s stuff, but the first Queen album I got was The Game because of Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and
Right. What year was that, Melissa?
that came out in I think 80, either 70,
80.
late 79 or 80.
Okay. Because
Um,
and what else wasn't there another hit on that album?
yeah, another one bites the dust.
Right. Okay. But then after that, I don't
The
know if
radio,
they
the album with Radio Gaga. Is that
okay.
I can't remember the name of that album, but I was a fan of
No.
Radio Gaga, so like this set was meant for me.
Well, I wasn't a fan of that song until I saw them perform it at Live Aid. And again, thinking about the crowd's interaction, it was
Yeah,
just the clapping and the waving of the arms. They
yeah, it was
were amazing.
mesmerizing.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, it was like 18 minutes, I think, or 22 minutes. But Bohemian Rhapsody, Radio Gaga, Hammer to Fall, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, We Will Rock You into We Are the Champions. It was amazing. Um, as impressed as I was with that, I kind of feel the same way, like you mentioned earlier about you too. Um, Sunday Bloody Sunday into Bad. Bad was a song I was unaware of at that moment, and
Same.
it it was what a performance that he jumped off the stage and started dancing with that girl. Um, but I was a fan. I was hooked with from those guys from that moment on. That was incredible.
Yeah, they were
Really
on
good.
tour for to support Unforgettable Fire, and just like a few months earlier in March, they were named Rolling Stones Band of the '80s. And for me, that performance introduced kind of the nature of live concerts in general. I think I told you my first concert was Cyndi Lauper, and I can't remember if I'd seen anybody before, after I'd seen Cyndi Lauper and before Live Aid. I don't think I had. So to
Mhm.
see Bono ad lib where he jumps into Ruby Tuesday and Sympathy for the Devil and Walk on the Wild Side, I was like, oh my God, this guy is like ad libbing lyrics from other people's songs. How cool is this? That's the first time I'd ever seen it. And it was just, I think that probably kicked off my love for going to see live music and concerts because it was just so eye opening for me.
They were yeah, at that point and into the Joshua Tree tour. I don't know if got a chance to see them on that tour.
Yeah, I did.
Um, you did. So I saw them at the Hartford Civic Center. They played 3 nights, and I saw 2 of the 3 nights. And the first night, you know how they play music right before a band comes out, and then the lights
Yep.
go down, and okay, they were playing "Stand by Me" by John Lennon's version,
Yep.
and everybody was singing. All of a sudden, they walked out with all the lights up and just kind of picked up the song where the recording was. I thought it was the coolest thing ever,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
And then they went into obviously all of the all Joshua Tree stuff. But yeah, they're terrific. I've seen them got to be 5 or 6 times at this point.
Yeah. That performance just catapulted them to superstardom. They
Yeah.
were on the rise and it just made it just accelerate.
Um, David Bowie, Heroes is a personal favorite of mine as well. I don't know if you remember, but I mean, it was a great performance at Live
Yeah.
Aid. He also did Heroes at the Concert for New York right after 9/11. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember the concert, but I don't remember that performance specifically. But that's a really
Yeah,
cool place to do that.
yeah, yeah, and he lost him too soon, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's always been a I mean, he played Rebel, Rebel, Modern Love, and Heroes. It just, shoot it
Yeah.
into my veins. Yeah,
Yeah, Modern
perfect.
Love is my favorite Bowie song, and he looked so fabulous that day. He was in that white suit and just looked amazing.
Right. What was the name of that? Was that album Modern Love? Um, what was that album called? Let's Dance.
Let's
That album
Dance.
was
Yeah.
called Let's Dance, 1983. Yes. All right. Good. Glad I remembered that. I think, I just in wrapping it up, it was just it was a unprecedented day, and it led to a lot of concerts in the next few years for causes. Whether obviously Farm Aid started. There was several concerts for
Amnesty
Amnesty.
International. Yep, International.
Yeah, yeah, in '86 at Giant Stadium, U2 and the Police, who had broken up, but they got together for that those shows in '86, and then of course there's the Amnesty tour with Peter Gabriel and Springsteen and Sting, Tracy Chapman. I think that was in the late summer, early fall of '88. Um, but yeah, so that concert really kicked off, kind of a new round of benefit shows, which was amazing, and just kind of a lot of memorable performances for sure.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, one of the you talk about all the benefit concerts and also music that was released in support of things. Sun City by Stevie Van Zandt
You're
and
right.
the people that he had assembled. Fun fact: Queen's choice between performing at Live Aid was the alternative was to do like a nine night set or something at Sun City. And I think there was some pressure there around all of the apartheid issues that kind of cemented their decision to play Live Aid. But I thought that was kind of an interesting juxtaposition, especially since Bruce and the E Street Band weren't playing there. But I think Stevie was gone by then, right? Nils was in
Yeah.
the band.
Yep. Nils came in '84, right before the Born in the USA tour. But yeah, that's Sun City, which by the way is just an incredible song. I love that
I still
song.
have the 45. I love
You
it.
do? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, when when did the E Street Band go to Africa? It was either in like 2013. I think it was 2013. They played a version of Sun City while they were
Oh, that's so
there
cool.
for the first time E Street Band ever played it, and it was a lot of fun. But that video is great with Miles
Love that video.
Davis,
Yeah.
yeah, and all the hip hop artists and Lou
Pat
Reed.
Benatar.
Right, yeah, yes, and yeah. So yeah, and I wasn't there. I think, and I maybe I'm misspeaking, but wasn't there an issue with Stevie and Paul Simon too about Sun City? Or I got to look back into it. I think those two were feuding for a while about apartheid or something.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if Stevie felt like Paul Simon was exploiting the African musicians or something. I vaguely recall something about that too.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, if you follow Stevie on Twitter, he's not shy to give his opinions on
No,
stuff.
not at all.
Yeah. Great. Well, listen, I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I think we hit everything.
You got it. You anything else you got, or are we all good?
No, I think I hit all the high spots. So
Well,
yeah, it was just a great day of music.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I'm looking forward to seeing some retrospectives, and I'm sure I actually heard that CNN is going to be airing something about Live Aid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's actually a documentary that was produced in the UK, but I think CNN is going to be airing it in the States here, so keep an eye out for that. I want to thank you for jumping on again. Love talking music with you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and
I love
appreciate it.
geeking out about music with you.
Oh my gosh, two nerds. Well, at least one.
Yeah.
I'm
No, I'm there.
I'm gonna leave you alone. I won't call you that. I won't call you the N-word. So anyway, thank you to Kirk. Thank you to the Minifan Network and Menners, and hope everybody gets a chance to check out upcoming retrospectives and information articles about Live Aid. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to everybody soon.